Why do you think you keep your mind constantly busy? Why do you need noise, distractions, screens, meaningless conversations, social commitments you don't even enjoy? I'm going to reveal something that Carl Jung discovered decades ago that will forever change how you see your relationship with yourself. You're running, not from others, from yourself. And as long as you keep running, that inner void you feel will keep growing, feeding off every distraction you use to avoid facing it. By the end of this video, you'll have the exact tools Jung developed to stop running and start living from your most authentic center. But first, you need to understand something brutal. That void you fear so much isn't your enemy. It's your portal to the person you actually came here to be. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you genuinely are, not who you think you should be. And it all begins when you stop running from the inner silence you've been avoiding your entire life. Have you ever wondered why you feel more anxious when you have nothing to do? Why silence feels unbearable? Why you need to fill every free moment with activities, calls, shows, music, anything that keeps your mind occupied? The answer is deeper than you imagine. Carl Jung discovered that most people live in a constant state of flight from themselves. It's not that you don't know who you are. It's that you're afraid to find out. Because deep down you sense you'll find things you've been denying, aspects of yourself you've been rejecting, truths about your life you've been avoiding confronting. So you fill your time, you fill your mind, you fill your schedule. You become a perpetually busy person, always running toward the next thing, the next goal, the next distraction. But Jung would tell you something perhaps no one else has told you with this clarity, that constant busyness isn't productivity, it's disguised evasion. When you're afraid to be alone with yourself, when silence generates anxiety, when you need constant external validation to feel good, you're not living your life. You're playing a role. You're being the version of yourself you think the world wants to see, while your true self remains buried under layers of expectations, social roles, and emotional masks. Think about this. How many times in the past week did you sit in complete silence, without phone, without music, without television, with nothing to do except be with yourself? If the answer is few times or never, then you're confirming exactly what Jung observed. You're running from your own company. And while you run, the void grows. Because every distraction you use is like putting a band-aid over a deep wound. It might hide the problem temporarily, but it doesn't heal it. And the longer you avoid facing what's inside you, the stronger that feeling of emptiness becomes, the more intense the need to flee becomes. Here's an exercise Jung would have approved of. Tonight, before sleep, sit in silence for 10 minutes. No distractions, just you and your thoughts. Observe what arises: anxiety, impatience, urges to check your phone, thoughts you'd rather not have. Everything that appears is exactly what you've been running from, and it's exactly what you need to face to begin living authentically. If you committed to doing that exercise, give this video a like. I need to know how many people are truly ready to stop running and start facing themselves. Now, something Jung understood better than anyone is that you're not just running from uncomfortable thoughts or difficult feelings. You're running from your own greatness. Sounds paradoxical, right? How can someone run from their own potential? But it's exactly what you do every time you settle for less. Every time you sabotage yourself before reaching something important. Every time you prefer to stay small rather than risk shining. Jung called it the shadow. That part of you that contains not only what you consider negative, but also what you consider too good, too powerful, too brilliant to allow yourself to express fully. Because shining means responsibility. It means stopping being a victim. It means recognizing you have more control over your life than you're comfortable admitting. It's easier to complain about circumstances than to change them. It's more comfortable to blame others for your unhappiness than to take responsibility for creating the life you actually want. It's less terrifying to stay in your comfort zone than to risk discovering what you're truly capable of. But every time you choose easy over authentic, every time you prefer comfort over growth, every time you settle for a small version of yourself, you're feeding that inner void. Because deep down you know you're not living up to your potential. You know there's more in you than what you're showing the world. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you really are, requires courage. Not the courage to face others, but the courage to face yourself. To look honestly at your life and ask, am I living from my truth or am I playing a role? Am I following my own path or am I fulfilling others' expectations? Here's a question Jung would have asked that I want you to ask yourself right now. If no one could judge you, if there were no social consequences, if money weren't an issue, what would you be doing with your life? What would you express? How would you live? The distance between that answer and your current reality is exactly the measure of how much you're running from your true self. And don't tell me you can't change your life because you have responsibilities. Jung wouldn't ask you to abandon everything tomorrow. He'd ask you to begin incorporating elements of your truth into your current life. Small steps, conscious decisions, moments of genuine authenticity amid daily obligations. Repeat this affirmation with me. I choose to stop running from who I really am. Say it out loud. Feel it. Because recognizing that you've been running is the first step to stopping. And we'll talk about that in the next point, because you need to understand exactly how this process of running affects all your relationships. Have you noticed how you always attract the same type of people into your life? How you repeat the same patterns in different relationships? How it seems that no matter how much you change jobs, cities, or partners, certain problems follow you wherever you go? Jung had an explanation for this that's going to completely change your perspective on relationships. The problem isn't other people. The problem is that when you run from yourself, you automatically attract people who are also running from themselves. When you can't be alone, you attract people who also can't be alone. When you need constant validation, you attract people who need to control or be controlled. When you live from the mask, you attract other masks. Jung explained it like this. We project onto others what we can't see or accept in ourselves. If you're afraid of your own emotional intensity, you're going to attract either extremely emotional people who exhaust you, or people completely disconnected from their emotions who frustrate you. If you can't handle your own need for independence, you're going to attract possessive partners, or partners who flee from commitment. It's as if you carry a specific emotional frequency that only certain types of people can tune into. And that frequency is determined by your relationship with yourself. As long as you keep running from aspects of your personality, you'll keep attracting people who externally represent that internal drama you don't want to face. Have you wondered why certain characteristics in others bother you so much? Jung would say that what irritates you most in others is exactly what you most reject in yourself. That arrogant person you can't stand perhaps reflects your own repressed arrogance. That needy person who exhausts you perhaps reflects your own need for attention that you don't want to acknowledge. It's not that you're the same as those people, it's that there are aspects of those characteristics that exist in you somehow, and by not integrating them consciously, you project them and attract them from outside. It's the universe forcing you to deal with parts of yourself you'd rather ignore. Jung had a brilliant concept for this. What you resist persists. The more you run from certain emotions, the more intense they become. The more you deny certain aspects of your personality, the more they manifest in the people you attract into your life. The more you avoid solitude, the more you surround yourself with people who increase your sense of emptiness. But here's what's liberating. When you stop running from yourself, when you begin to integrate all parts of your personality, when you learn to be comfortable with your own complexity, you automatically begin attracting more mature, more conscious people, more capable of genuine intimacy. It's not magic, it's pure psychology. When you're complete with yourself, you no longer need others to fill your emotional voids. When you're comfortable with your solitude, you choose company from abundance, not from need. When you know and accept your own shadows, you no longer need to project them onto others. Here's a powerful exercise. Think of the last person who really bothered or irritated you. Write down 3 specific characteristics of that person you can't stand. Now ask yourself honestly, does some version of those characteristics exist in me? Is there some way I can also be like that? Not to judge yourself, but to integrate those rejected parts of yourself. Jung would say that every person in your life is a mirror. They're reflecting aspects of yourself you need to see. Those who attract you show qualities you admire, but perhaps haven't fully developed. Those who repel you show aspects you reject in yourself, but need to integrate to become a complete person. When you understand this, you stop being a victim of your relationships and become the conscious creator of them. You stop asking why the same things always happen to you and start asking what part of you is attracting exactly those experiences. Repeat with me. My relationships are mirrors of my relationship with myself. Feel it. Integrate this truth, because once you understand it completely, you have the power to transform not only your love life, but all your human connections. And this brings us to the next point, where we're going to explore why the void you feel isn't a lack that needs to be filled, but a sacred space that needs to be inhabited. Here comes the most counterintuitive truth Jung discovered about inner void. It's not there to be filled. It's there to be inhabited. All this time you've been trying to eliminate that feeling of emptiness by filling it with activities, people, achievements, purchases, experiences, anything that promises to make you feel complete. But Jung understood something most never comprehend. That void isn't a problem to solve. It's a sacred space to explore. Modern culture has taught you that feeling empty is bad, that something's wrong with you if you're not constantly happy, motivated, and fulfilled. They've convinced you that you need to always be fine, always positive, always moving towards something. But Jung knew that emptiness is a natural and necessary part of human growth. Think of it this way. How can something new grow in a space that's already completely full? For a new version of you to be born, for your true self to emerge, there needs to be space. And that space feels like emptiness because you don't yet know what's going to grow there. It's like when a seed is underground in darkness before sprouting. From the outside, it looks like nothing's happening. It seems empty, dead, purposeless. But internally, all the transformation is occurring. The roots are forming, new life is gestating, the future plant is organizing itself. Your inner void is exactly the same. It's not absence of something. It's presence of something that hasn't been born completely yet. It's the space where your true self is gestating, where your authenticity is taking shape, where the person you really came to be is organizing itself to emerge. But instead of respecting this process, instead of allowing the void to do its work, you run to fill it with distractions. It's like constantly interrupting a seed that's germinating because you're afraid of the darkness of the soil. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who you authentically are, requires periods of emptiness, periods of not knowing, periods where old identities die and new ones haven't been born completely yet. It's uncomfortable, it's terrifying, it's disorienting, but it's absolutely necessary. Do you know what happens when you constantly fill that void with external distractions? You interrupt your own growth process. It's like taking a painkiller every time your body is trying to heal itself. The pain was information, it was part of the healing process, but by eliminating it, you also eliminate the possibility of genuine healing. Every time you feel emptiness and immediately run to fill it with food, entertainment, social media, shopping, social drama, casual sex, excessive work, anything that distracts you from being present with that sensation, you're interrupting your own evolution. Jung had a powerful phrase, "The privilege of a lifetime is being who you really are." But becoming who you really are requires first letting die who you're not. And that death feels like emptiness. It's the space between who you used to be and who you're destined to become. Here's an exercise that's going to change your relationship with emptiness forever. The next time you feel that sensation of emptiness, instead of immediately seeking something to fill it, stay with it. Sit in silence and allow yourself to fully experience that sensation without trying to change it, without judging it, without escaping from it. Breathe deeply and ask yourself, what is trying to emerge in this space? What new part of me wants to be born here? Don't expect immediate answers. Just allow the question to exist in that empty space. Allow the emptiness to teach you what it has to teach you. Jung discovered that when you stop running from emptiness and begin to inhabit it consciously, something extraordinary happens. You begin to connect with parts of yourself you've never explored. You begin to access creativity, wisdom, inner strength that was waiting in that apparently empty space. The void isn't the absence of your true self. It's the womb where your true self is gestating. Learn to honor it. Learn to respect it. Learn to inhabit it without trying to escape from it. Because there, in that apparently empty space, the most important transformation of your life is happening. Repeat with me. My inner void is a sacred space of transformation. Say it until you feel it in every cell of your body. Because changing your relationship with emptiness is going to change your relationship with everything else. And that brings us to the next point, where we're going to explore why the emotional pain you avoid so much can be your most powerful teacher. You've probably been conditioned to believe that emotional pain is something that should be avoided at all costs. That if you feel sadness, anxiety, fear, anger, or frustration, there's something wrong with you, and you need to fix it immediately. Society has taught you that negative emotions are problems to solve, not experiences to explore. But Jung understood something revolutionary. Emotional pain isn't your enemy, it's your most honest teacher. Every emotion you experience, however uncomfortable, carries crucial information about your life, your needs, your boundaries, your values, your deepest desires. When you run from emotional pain, when you medicate it with distractions, when you deny or judge it, you're rejecting exactly the information you need to grow and evolve. Jung said that every psychological symptom, every emotional pain, is the psyche trying to call your attention to something that needs to be seen, integrated, or healed. It's as if your soul were trying to communicate with you through pain, and you keep hanging up the phone. Your anxiety isn't just an annoyance to eliminate. It's information about situations in your life that aren't aligned with your truth. Your sadness isn't just a negative emotion to overcome. It's information about losses you need to process or dreams you need to honor. Your anger isn't just something to control. It's information about boundaries you need to establish or values that are being violated. But modern culture has taught you to flee from emotional pain so quickly that you never have the opportunity to listen to what it's trying to tell you. At the first sign of emotional discomfort, you run toward distractions. At the first moment of sadness, you seek entertainment. At the first flash of anxiety, you busy yourself with activities. And while you flee from pain, you also flee from growth. because all genuine growth requires some level of discomfort. You can't become a more authentic version of yourself without letting parts of you die that no longer serve you. And that death hurts. You can't develop emotional strength without going through emotional challenges. You can't find your truth without questioning the comfortable lies you've been living. Jung had a powerful concept called enantiodromia, which means that every extreme eventually becomes its opposite. Pain deeply felt and integrated becomes wisdom. Sadness completely experienced becomes compassion. Fear faced consciously becomes courage. Anger processed healthily becomes personal power. But this transformation only happens when you stop running from pain and begin to relate to it consciously. When you shift from, "How can I get rid of this?" to, "What is this trying to teach me?" Here's an exercise Jung would have loved. The next time you feel an intense and uncomfortable emotion, instead of immediately trying to change it or escape from it, do this. Sit with the emotion as if it were a friend who came to visit you with important information. Breathe deeply and ask the emotion, "What do you need me to know? What are you trying to show me? What needs to change in my life?" Listen to the answers that arise without judging them. Treat your emotional pain as valuable information, not as an enemy to defeat. Jung discovered that people who learn to relate consciously to their emotional pain develop a depth, wisdom, and presence that's impossible to develop any other way. They have access to parts of themselves that others never find, because they were never willing to go through the discomfort necessary to get there. I'm not saying to seek pain or to wallow in it. I'm saying that when it appears, as it inevitably appears in every human life, treat it as the teacher it is, instead of the enemy you think it is. Because every time you run from emotional pain, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it, that you don't have the inner strength necessary to navigate life's challenges. But every time you stay present with pain, every time you process it consciously, you develop deep confidence in your ability to handle anything life presents you. Jung knew that the wisest, most compassionate, and most authentic people he knew were those who had learned to befriend their emotional pain instead of running from it. They had converted their suffering into wisdom, their pain into power, their vulnerability into strength. Repeat with me. My emotional pain is my most honest teacher. Feel it. Integrate this truth. Because changing your relationship with pain is going to change your relationship with your entire human experience. And that brings us to the final point, where we're going to explore how stopping running from yourself isn't just a self-help technique, but the path to the deepest freedom you can experience. You've lived so long running from yourself that you probably don't even remember what it feels like to be genuinely comfortable in your own skin. You've been so busy being who you think you should be, fulfilling expectations, playing roles, avoiding uncomfortable aspects of your personality, that you've lost touch with the experience of simply being who you are, without apologies, without masks, without modifications. But Jung understood that there exists a freedom beyond any external freedom you can imagine. The freedom to be completely yourself without need for external approval. The freedom to be alone with yourself and feel at home. The freedom to face any emotion, any thought, any aspect of your personality without resistance, without judgment, without need to flee. This freedom doesn't come from changing your external circumstances, though that may happen as a result. It comes from fundamentally changing your relationship with yourself. It comes from stopping treating yourself as a problem to solve and beginning to treat yourself as a mystery to explore. Jung called this individuation the process of becoming a complete, integrated, authentic individual. Not perfect, not without shadows or difficult aspects, but complete. Someone who has made peace with all parts of themselves, even those they'd rather not have. Can you imagine what it would feel like to wake up every day without needing to play a role? Without needing to prove anything to anyone? Without needing to hide aspects of your personality you consider unacceptable? Without needing to seek external validation to feel good about yourself? That freedom exists. Jung lived it. Many people who have done the work of stopping running from themselves have found it, and it's available to you too. But it requires something most people aren't willing to give. It requires you to stop treating your inner life as if it were optional. Most people live completely externalized. Their self-esteem depends on their achievements. Their happiness depends on their circumstances. Their sense of worth depends on others' approval. They've turned their inner life into a war zone they prefer to avoid, and their outer life into the only place they allow themselves to seek satisfaction. But Jung knew this is a recipe for chronic suffering, because external circumstances are always going to change. People are going to disappoint. Achievements are going to lose their shine. The body is going to age. Work is going to change. Relationships are going to evolve. If your well-being depends completely on external factors, you're always going to be on an emotional roller coaster. The only real stability, the only lasting peace, the only genuine freedom comes from developing a solid, conscious, loving relationship with yourself. From learning to be present with your entire internal experience without needing to change it, fix it, or flee from it. This doesn't mean becoming passive or resigned. It means developing the capacity to respond to life from a place of conscious choice instead of automatic reaction. It means being able to feel fear without being dominated by it. Being able to feel sadness without being destroyed by it. Being able to feel anger without acting destructively. Being able to feel emptiness without desperately trying to fill it. Jung had a phrase that sums all this up perfectly. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But it's also the most liberating, because once you stop being afraid of yourself, you stop being afraid of life. Here's the final exercise, the most important of all. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself this question. If I could no longer run from myself, if I had to be completely present with who I am right now, with everything I feel, with everything I think, with all my uncomfortable aspects, what would I discover? Don't try to answer immediately, just allow the question to exist. Over the next few days, every time you feel the impulse to flee toward a distraction, toward a compulsive activity, toward anything that takes you away from being present with yourself, pause, breathe, and choose to stay one more moment with whatever you're feeling. Not to torture yourself, not to suffer unnecessarily, but to gradually develop the capacity to be present with your entire human experience. To develop the inner strength that allows you to navigate life from your authentic center instead of from your fears and avoidances. Jung knew this isn't easy work. It requires courage. It requires patience. It requires compassion with yourself. But he also knew it's the most important work you can do in your life, because it affects everything else. Your capacity to love genuinely, your capacity to create something meaningful, your capacity to contribute to the world from your unique truth, your capacity to live without regrets. And he also knew you don't have to do it alone. Seek support, seek community, seek professional help if you need it. But above all, begin. Begin today. Begin now. Begin with one moment of genuine presence with yourself. Because every moment you spend running from yourself is a moment you're not living your real life. And your real life, your authentic life, your genuine life is waiting for you right here, right now. in this present moment, behind all the distractions and avoidances. You've made it this far because something in you is ready to stop running. Something in you is ready for the most terrifying and most liberating encounter of your life, the encounter with yourself. You've heard these words because your soul is crying out for you to stop betraying it with distractions and start honoring it with presence. Jung dedicated his life to understanding the human psyche, and his conclusion was crystal clear. Individuation, the process of becoming who you authentically are, is the most fundamental purpose of human existence. Everything else, all external goals, all achievements, all relationships, are secondary to this central mission of becoming yourself. But becoming yourself requires first stopping running from yourself. It requires developing the courage to face your voids without compulsively filling them. It requires the wisdom to listen to your emotional pain as valuable information. It requires the strength to inhabit your solitude as a sacred space of growth. And it requires understanding that every time you choose to stay present with yourself instead of fleeing toward a distraction, you're choosing freedom. You're choosing authenticity. You're choosing a life lived from the inside out instead of from the outside in. If these words resonated with you, if something inside you stirred while listening, it's because you're ready for this path. It's because you've reached the point where running is no longer an option. It's because your soul is demanding that you finally honor it with your complete presence. I want you to write in the comments, "I choose to stop running from myself," not as a promise you can break, but as a declaration of intention, as a commitment to the most important person in your life, you. And if you're truly ready for this journey, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video with someone who's also ready to stop running and start living. Because together we can create a community of people committed to authenticity, to real growth, to conscious living. Your true self is waiting. It's been waiting your entire life. Don't make it wait any longer.